Hey there guys, and welcome to another edition of Sky Blue Sunday, where me and my co-host Rob talk about Coventry City's happenings that have gone on through the week, and in particular this week we're going to be talking about the Barnsley against Coventry game, which happened on the 1st of the 10th 2011, which of course was yesterday. So hi Rob, do you want to say a few words?
Yes, hi, thanks for listening everyone.
So as you guys guessed, we played against Barnsley yesterday at Oakwell, their home pitch. It was a good game. It was full of a couple of trials and tribulations, but yeah, we'll go into it. So Rob, do you want to start by naming the home team, and I'll name the away team?
Yeah, the Barnsley lined up with Steele in goal, Hassel, McEverley, Doyle, Foster, O'Brien, McNulty, Vazte, Butterfield was the captain, Drinkwater and Gray. On the bench was Priest, Wiseman, Park, Addison and Rose.
And for Coventry, we started with the 4-4-2 diamond as normal. We had Richard Keogh in goal. Joe Murphy in goal. Richard Keogh, Martin Craney, Chris Hussey and Nathan Cameron at the back. In midfield, we played with Sammy Clingan, Connor Thomas and Gary Deegan and Gary McSheffrey. And up front, we had Lucas Jukovic and Roy O'Donovan. For us on the bench, we had Chris Dunn, Cyrus Christie, David Bow, Clive Platt and Cody McDonald. So the game started off pretty well for the City. We were getting into it, had a couple of chances. In particular, there was one chance which Roy O'Donovan had where he rounded the keeper and managed to do a Tevez-style manoeuvre to actually put the ball wide, which right away then I knew it wasn't our day, because he really should have been scoring those goals. It's a striker's bread and butter really. He should have been putting it away, but you know, even the great Fernando Torres can muck up every now and again, and does so very often at the moment in time. So yeah, what did you think of that chance, Rob?
Well, it was early doors, but as you say, you've got to take your chances, and that was probably our best chance of the game. So from then on in, we would just ruin that missed chance. If we weren't 1-0 up at that point, then it could have been a completely different game, but we didn't, and I don't think we really adapted our play to deal with the fact that we missed a decent chance so early on.
Yeah, it should have been a chance that we put away to get the early lead, settle the boys down and just let them get on with it. I think the miss mainly made them a little bit more nervous, if anything, just because we should really have been 1-0 up, and we managed to spurn the opportunity. So straight after that, Ricardo Vazte followed suit by heading over the bar from a cross from Danny Drinkwater. I will say I wasn't actually at the game, so I didn't see most of these opportunities. I was watching on the Football League show, so I can't really comment on what they were like or anything like that.
He should have scored that. He should have scored that, and we should have scored ours. So at that point, it should have been 1-1.
Yeah, so as you say, should have been 1-1. But it wasn't to be. It stuck at 0-0. And Gary McSheffrey then came on a couple of seconds later and took a shot from distance, which sailed wide of Luke Steele's goal. Rob, did you see that chance by any chance?
Yeah, again, it was another chance. It wasn't as good of a chance as O'Donovan's, but it was another decent chance from McSheffrey, who's of late, the last couple of games, he's been playing a lot better than usual, so you'd have expected him to at least hit the target with that. So it was, disappointing to see it go wide.
Yeah, I mean, Gary McSheffrey scored against, I can't remember who it was. Who did you... Blackpool, that was the one.
Was it Reading?
It was the one where he scored the Ryan Giggs type free kick.
It was Reading at the beginning, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was a really good goal, so I thought he was on form, and I thought that he might have had a good game. It sounds like he did actually have a pretty good game, to be fair, but just couldn't hit the target, which is what we've had problems with all season. So Vazte was the first to register a shot on target. His free kick, it was a free kick from Connor Thomas, who fouled Jacob Butterfield, and Joe Murphy managed to get his hands in the way of it and get it clear. So then what happened is, on the 44th minute, I believe it was, 42nd minute, sorry, there was a fairly controversial decision with an Andy Gray penalty that was awarded by the referee. I personally thought when watching it back on the Football League show that it wasn't a free kick and that actually Chris Hussey was fouled in the build up to it, and Craney went down, sort of covered his hands over the ball, and the linesman and referee gave the penalty. I spoke to you about it before we started this commentary, Rob, and you actually said that it should have been a penalty. So if you want to elaborate.
Well, at the time, seeing it as it happened, I'd agreed with what you said. I thought it was a foul on Hussey, but looking back on the TV footage, which is obviously from a different angle from where we were sitting, you can see that Hussey is brought down, but he's done the thing that most footballers do when they get brought down, and they put their hands on the ball, expecting that their free kick will be given for them. Now, every player should play to the whistle, and the whistle hadn't gone at that point, so you shouldn't put your hands on the ball, and that's what the free kick, the handball's been given for. And to do it in your own penalty area as well, I think is very naive. Anywhere else on the pitch, you shouldn't do it anyway, but to do it in your own penalty area as well, I have to admit that I think they got it right.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that it still should have been a free kick to Hussey, but at the same time, as you say...
I did think it was a foul, but the referee and the linesman didn't, and they're in charge of the game, so not Hussey. It's not Hussey's decision to make.
Yeah, as you say, at the end of the day, the referee is the driving force in the game. If the referee's not going to give it, then at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do. Once the referee's made the decision, that decision is final. So it was stupid for Hussey to do it, but at the same time, I still don't think it was a penalty. I think he was really unlucky to come out of it with a penalty being awarded, but it was a stupid decision to make. It was one of Hussey's biggest mistakes, I'd say, this season, and at the end of the day, it cost us a goal.
It'd been run ragged the whole first half down the left-hand side, and obviously made a few little mistakes, and the home crowd were getting on his back. But I think it wasn't one of his best performances, and the penalty incident topped that off really, and I think that's why he was subbed at half-time. Yeah,
I mean, the penalty was taken by Andy Gray and put to the bottom left side of the goal. I didn't really see the penalty. Did you? I saw the penalty, but I didn't take any notice of it that much.
In the build-up to the penalty, a bit of mind games going on with Joe Murphy kicked the ball off the spot a couple of times while the referee was trying to sort out the ensuing arguments about the penalty, which was quite, it wasn't very professional. But you can tell when they were annoyed, and he kept kicking the ball off the spot. But yeah, the penalty itself, Murphy went the same way he went the other week when he saved it. So I just assumed that he'd picked his spot, and Gray had picked the other end, and scored.
So at that point we were 1-0 down. I thought we could make a comeback to be honest, but it wasn't to be. So at half time, Coventry had an injury to Martin Craney, who came out for the second half after, I believe it was Clive Platt and Cyrus Christie.
Platt and Christie came on for Hussey and O'Donovan. I think that was tactical. I don't think there was any injury involved. They just had a poor first half.
I kind of agree with you, but I kind of think that it was one of Andy Thorne's biggest mistakes so far this season. The fact that he knew that Martin Craney was injured, he wasn't sure whether Martin Craney would get over the injury, and it forced us into a bit of a corner in terms of the substitutions that we could make. I mean, if it wasn't for the Cyrus Christie coming on for Chris Hussey, then we could have brought Cyrus Christie on for Martin Craney and then brought Cody McDonald on later on in the game. I mean, what did you think?
I agree, but I think it got to a point, the first half performance wasn't great, and I think Andy Thorne had to obviously show the fans and that he was willing to change it, and he obviously did that by making two changes. I mean, I don't know how bad the the injury to Craney was at half-time, but for him to come out for the second half, you'd have expected him to have, to have told the gaffer that he was up for it and he was ready to carry on. But he obviously took another knock, and then we're down to using all of our 3 subs within 5 minutes of the second half kicking off. So in one way, it was possibly another naive substitution to take the 2 off, but maybe, I don't know, he was just trying to show that something needs to change. So you can't win.
Yeah, I know. I just kind of think, knowing that Craney was injured, that he should have given it 10-15 minutes before he did bring on Christie. I think it was a bit of a snap move, and it was one of the things that ultimately changed the game for us and meant that we probably were no longer going to get back into it. But after 55 minutes, Andy Gray then tucked in a shot beyond diving Murphy, which made the score 2-0. And that was when I looked back on the substitution at half-time and thought, if Cody McDonald could come on, maybe we could snatch something from it. But it just didn't seem very likely. But to be fair to the lads, in the build-up to the end of the game, they did do some really good play. They had some really good play in the last 20 minutes. We took them on pretty well and had a couple of good opportunities.
I was going to say there was a couple of good opportunities, like you say, but the general build-up play and the midfield play, it was poor. There's no other word for it, really. It was just poor. I mean, they couldn't really pass string 2 or 3 passes together, and when you're 2 goals behind and you're trying to get up the field to get those chances on goals, you've got to do the basic stuff, the schoolboy stuff right, and you've got to do it well. And they just weren't doing it well. They just weren't passing it very well to each other. And then Bell kept trying the long ball out to the side, to the wing, but it was just being overhit, and things like that. It just wasn't clicking for them, and you could see the players. They were trying, but the quality just wasn't there. And Jukovic was knackered with 20 minutes to go, and as you say, we've got no one else to bring on. So he was giving it his best, but he was just knackered.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can really say is, what do you think happened towards the end of the game to spur on the team? Do you reckon it was the fans that spurred on the team to try and make them get a point out of it, or?
I think so. I mean, the majority of the fans at the back of the stand had just resorted to the old cease out chants after the second goal went in. So for most of the second half, that's all they got. But I think it was just they wanted to play well for the fans, but the quality isn't there to do so.
So at the end of the game, of course, it finished 2-0 to Barnsley, and I personally think this was this is the calling point for where we are realising that we are in a bit of trouble. I think this game was by far the most disappointing result that we've had all season.
It was the worst performance of the season as well, and I think Andy Thorne said that. So at least he's come out and said that. If he was coming out and trying to defend the performance, then I'll be a bit annoyed. But the fact that he's come out and said it was one of the worst, if not the worst, performance of the season, and hopefully something can be done about it. And they've got the international break now to knuckle down. And
the only problem with that is they've got 2 weeks to dwell on it. Do you reckon it could go both ways?
It can go either way, but they've got to put it behind them. I know it's an old football cliche, you're only as good as your last match, but they've got to put it behind them and look forward to the next game. That's what they can do.
I do think the one good thing about Coventry is the fact that we have got such a decent level of youngsters backing us up when we need it. The likes of Carl Baker, who is now out for a month with torn ankle ligaments, with Connor Thomas, Gail Bigger-Ramana, Cyrus Christie, Jordan Clark to some extent, backing up the boys. I think that's really good for us. I mean, what do you reckon?
It's good that they're coming through, but we shouldn't have to rely on them every game. I mean, after Craney went off, Connor Thomas was playing at right back for the most of the second half yesterday. So, for a young lad to come in and play out of position like that for a whole 45 minutes at professional level it's commendable, really. The fact that he's done so well, but we shouldn't have to rely on our youngsters filling in like that. I mean, they're doing a good job of it, but we shouldn't have to rely on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that was another thing that I was going to talk about, the fact that we had a good few of our players playing out of position. As you said, Connor Thomas was playing at right back. I believe Cyrus Christie was also playing at centre back at one point.
He was at left back, and he's a right.
At left back, yeah, and he's a right back, which we had the same trouble with that last season and the season before with the likes of Martin Craney playing at left back, as he is actually a centre back and a right back. Yeah. And I think that ruined any revival chance that we were going to have, because of the fact that everyone was playing out of position and they didn't really know what they were doing in those positions themselves.
Yeah,
I mean, what do you think?
I don't know what's happened to Giramana, because he wasn't on the bench again yesterday, and he wasn't the game before either. So I know Thorne said he's resting him, but I mean, he's a good option to have on the bench. So I'm not sure. Maybe it's because it's gone down to only having 5 people on the bench. I don't know, but it'd be good to have him as an option to come on.
Yeah, I mean, he is a good player, and he's got a good touch on him. I mean, I don't think I'd play him at right back, but he can play anywhere in the midfield, which it helped strengthen the team a little bit when we had the problems that we did have. I'm just wondering whether it's already the lack of squad is already having an effect on us, and maybe it could get a little bit worse before it gets better in terms of injuries.
Two professional, well, I say professional, the senior players in the squad. When I'm thinking of James McPake and the Freddie Eastwood types, you know, they've disappeared off the face of the earth, really. I mean, the last we heard of Eastwood was he was going to a fitness camp, and that's the last we heard, and now he's not been on the bench, not been anywhere near the squad for the last couple of weeks. James McPake's, I think, still injured. So, you know, when you've got senior players out like that, you've got to rely on the youth, which we shouldn't really have to, but we've got no alternative.
And the thing is, they're actually really good players, Eastwood and McPake.
Yeah, on their day they are,
so it is a big blow to us, but hopefully with the 2 weeks next, we can get a few players back and start moving on again and get back to the form we were like at the start of the season, where our defence was solid, but hopefully we can get a couple of goals in the time being. The one thing I wanted to talk about was, do you think there are going to be any mentions of Andy Thorne out in the coming weeks?
No, it's clear that the fans still support the manager and the team. It's clear. I can see that from, you know, the chants. I mean, even when we were 2-0 down yesterday, there was still "And Sky Blue Army" being chanted. I mean, I think the fans can see the pressure and what Thorne's got to deal with. I mean, he's got his hands tied behind his back, his feet tied behind his back. You know, he's got so much constraint to work under. I mean, we've just got to appreciate that, and I think the fans do. It's just tough for everyone when you get a bad result, and the fans don't turn on the manager; they turn on the owners, which is what we saw again yesterday.
Yeah, what I kind of reckon might happen though is, as I said on my Twitter account, this next month is arguably the easiest month of the season for us. I was hoping that we'd get 10 points out of it, but in reality I can only see us getting 4 or 5. So I reckon if we do only get the 4 or 5 that I'm thinking, towards the back end of the month, I reckon we might see a couple of people start to question Andy Thorne as the manager. I mean, I personally don't, but I think he's a good manager, but there was the mistake yesterday that he did make, and that could sway a few minds in terms of what they want, and he's already under pressure, but at the end of the day there's not much that he can do or any other manager can do to make the team better.
What other manager would want to come in? If they, I wouldn't hold anything against Andy Thorne if he did decide to resign, because you can understand if he were to resign tomorrow because of the stress and the pressure he's under. But he's got the support of the fan, and you know, if that was to happen, who else would want to come into this mess at the minute? And as you said, the next couple of games, I mean, we've got Forest and we've got Doncaster at the end of the month, haven't we? I mean, they're at the minute, we shouldn't be looking at it now, but they're relegation 6 pointers, aren't they? They shouldn't be at this point of the season, but they are. We need to get the points off the teams in and around us and start looking up the table rather than horribly down.
So the final question I've got is, do you think there will be any loan people coming on loan, just because we really do need it and it is paramount to keeping the club up, if you ask me. So yeah, do you think there will be any loan people come in? And
I
if so,
don't think there will be, purely because we've not seen any sign of anything happening at the minute. I mean, as soon as you hear someone rumoured to be coming to us on loan, the next day you see they've gone somewhere else, because any competition we have in trying to loan someone money to pay their wages, because we haven't got that sort of money at the minute. As we saw with what's his name, that one that went to Blackpool from Liverpool, Shelby. Apparently we were linked with him the other day, and then the next day he's gone to Blackpool and he's scored and set up one at the weekend. So once you've got any sort of competition in the loan market at the minute, they're not going to come.
Unfortunately, I had to cut off a bit of the video right at the end because there was some overlapping of the speaking, so I just thought I'd come on the mic and at the end of the show, after the show, and just say thanks a lot for listening. If you want any of your comments mentioning next week, then please leave them in the comment section below. And yeah, cheers guys, and take care.